So when the Wolverine debuted back in 2013, it was a vicious and much needed improvement on the doomed predecessor X-Men Origins of Barakapool, but it also showed that James Mangold had a good understanding of the character of James Howlett. Despite some shaky moments in the final act, the movie is still one of the better Wolverine films and ties into what we refer to as X-Men Days of Future Past, which was directed by He Who Shall Not Be Named. After a just okay but less than stellar X-Men Apocalypse, 2017 saw one of its biggest surprises with the movie Logan. Learning all the details of how Logan came to be the movie that it is makes it not at all surprising that the movie was a success. For starters, Hugh Jackman took a pay cut to ensure that the film would garner its R rating, and James Mangold borrowed heavy elements from the grim and far from kid-friendly Old Man Logan to deliver one of, if not the best Marvel movies out there. Not only did it serve as a satisfying conclusion for Wolverine, but it also served as an emotionally resonant one for Patrick Stewart's Charles Xavier as well. His performance really was one of the movie's biggest highlights, and his and James McAvoy's portrayals of Charles will admittedly be hard to contend with when the inevitable Disney X-Men reboot comes around. But perhaps the biggest surprise of all was young Dafne Keen's portrayal of X-23, also the daughter of Wolverine. For someone who was not only new to the big screen, but also unfamiliar to us, the audience, she became a very memorable character and brought a fearless charisma with her portrayal. In one instance, she is wide-eyed, and in another, she's ready to throw down with the biggest of the big and the baddest of the bad, including X-24. Her story throughout the movie is very somber, and it ultimately gives Wolverine more reason to keep going, even as his own health, which we initially thought wasn't a thing for Wolverine, rapidly deteriorates. He truly comes to the conclusion that even though bad things happen to the people he cares most about, that he will do whatever it takes to keep his daughter safe, even if it does cost him his own life. Daphne Keen's uncanny ability to evoke rage in one instance and in another move the audience in Logan's final tragic moments is more proof at how well her acting is. It isn't rare to have a young child star breakout. Incidentally, Millie Bobby Brown, who also reportedly auditioned for this role, has become a superstar thanks to Stranger Things. But what most impressed me about Daphne Keen's X-23 throughout the movie is just how much like Logan she actually is. Her backstory in the movie is similar to that of how her backstory is in the comics, and though we don't see her in costume, she doesn't really need one, because she's a badass without one. It was no surprise that there were further plans for X-23 after her character was a main highlight of Logan, and when James Mangold announced his plans for a spin-off film, many were enthused at the idea of her returning. After all, X-23 has donned the mantle of Wolverine, teamed up with the X-Force, and done many things on her own. At any rate, we needed no further confirmation that Daphne King could hold her own in a movie after how well she did in Logan. X-23 was definitely a character Fox could have easily capitalized off of, not just in a solo film, but in other ventures as well. But alas, with the snap of a finger and a little bit of Bob Iger, Disney bought Fox and sadly put a stop to that fire, and all the other Fox Marvel projects aside from the New Mutants. James Mangold did say late last year that he's still down to do the film should the opportunity arise, similar to Noah Hawley with the Doctor Doom film, but I suspect that Disney Marvel has other plans for the X-Men. Many have theorized that Daphne Keen's Laura could be brought back as the female Wolverine in the MCU, but somehow I think Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool will be the only remnant of Fox Marvel that will be brought over into Disney Marvel. It does sadden me that we were perhaps close to an X-23 spinoff directed by James Mangold, starring Daphne Keene, especially with James's enthusiasm. But at any rate, we always have Logan to treasure her portrayal of Laura, and Logan as a movie to treasure as indeed one of the top Marvel films and one of the best superhero movies.